And Susan is here now. The May 19th, 2021 meeting of the Yarmouth Planning Board is about to convene. As a precautionary measure to reduce the spread of the coronavirus, this meeting will be held by remote participation. My name is Kathy Williams, and I am the Yarmouth Town Planner. Will be serving as moderator for this virtual meeting. I will now turn it over to the Planning Board Chair.
Welcome to the May 19th, 2021 Yarmouth Planning Board meeting. My name is Joanne Crowley, and I am Chair of the Yarmouth Planning Board. I'll begin by taking a roll call to establish quorum. Brad Goodwin?
Present.
Liz Hartsgrove?
Present.
Tom Barron?
Present.
Susan Britta?
Present.
Will Rubenstein? Chris Vincent? Joanne Crowley, present. With the quorum present, I'll now call the meeting to order, and I'll ask Kathy Williams to explain how our remote participation will work this evening. Kathy?
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this planning board meeting is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance is permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access and participate in the proceedings as provided for in the order. Persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching via this virtual meeting or the live feed on the Town of Yarmouth YouTube channel. For all meetings, all audience participants enter the virtual meeting muted. Participants will be unmuted when called upon to speak by the chair or moderator. If you are not speaking, please mute yourself to avoid unnecessary background noise. Do not use speakerphone or Bluetooth devices when speaking, and all votes must be roll call votes. There are no applicants or presenters at this meeting this evening. For public comment, none of the items on the agenda this evening are public hearings that require a designated public comment period. However, public comment can be taken at the discretion of the chair. Members of the public may request to speak by selecting the raise hand button or pressing *9 on their phone and waiting for the chair to call on them. Members of the public recognized by the chair are asked to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation for the public record and then provide their comment. I will now hand the meeting back to the chair.
Thank you, Kathy. Kathy, do we have any members of the public joining us?
We do not.
Okay. Well, for those who might join us later, again, I want to thank you for joining us tonight or viewing this meeting at a later date. We appreciate any attention that you pay to the activities of the planning board, particularly as we continue this process of visioning, which we will be asking for your help again this coming June and July, which we are going to discuss a little bit tonight. So for tonight, we're going to review the work we went through last week with regard to visioning. We have a vision statement and goals. And I trust all the board members have had a chance to review. Kathy, I think, and Kyle did a really yeoman's job of incorporating all of those edits from coming in from every point on the compass. So thank you, Kathy, so much. She and I reviewed it in detail, but I would look for any eyes from any of you that anything we may have overlooked in our collaborative effort to edit that last week. That will be submitted to the Board of Selectmen, a cover letter from me, and that will be our introductory piece for the Planning Board's presentation next week with the Board of Selectmen. So Kathy has a draft cover letter for me, and that will be the attachment. So we want to get that in final form so it looks as good as it can be. So any final comments on that would be appreciated. Everybody's okay? Okay. Next, we have the questionnaire, which we also made some revisions to last week. I'd like to start with the preamble. In your packets was the summary of Liz's condensed, I think very good work to close down the size of the opening statement. I took what Liz provided and reorganized it a little bit and maybe added a sentence. So that's what you see as the cover to the questionnaire. That is new, but again, it incorporated both Liz and my edits there, and it is condensed. I think it's more direct. Thank you, Liz. You were spot on with wanting to get to the point. which is what we want to do here. If there are any comments on that, that will just be
Which one are we looking at?
the one that's on the front page of the survey is the revised
Visioning Survey 2.
survey 2, yes.
Okay, so
And
Liz,
at the end of the survey was the draft comments from Liz that was in a Word format all the way at the back.
thank you.
So I just flipped a couple of paragraphs of hers, doctored it up a little bit, and that's what you see there. But it is, I think, a short, sweet intro. If everybody's okay with that, we will run with that. Any further comments on the questionnaire? Again, yeoman's effort to try to move that with all of the collaborative edits, a committee of editors last week. So again, Kathy, thank you. I did have a couple of final comments, and I'd welcome any others from the group if there are any additional comments, changes.
Would you like me to pull it up,
I have to
Joanne?
excuse myself for a moment.
Yeah, yes, Tom. Okay, Tom will be right back. So,
Would you like me to pull it up, Joanne, so we
yes,
can look at it?
why don't we do that, Kathy, to the pages that I had the suggested changes. I believe they were under economy and recreation primarily.
Okay.
And I want to just make a note that the questions were renumbered, so they're not consecutive. They are numbered within each section, which Kathy took care of that. So I'll be referring to the newly numbered questions.
That visible?
Yeah, that's good, Kathy. So that's our preamble. And if you just go to the very first page, Kath, there is one, there is one change I recommended is to kill the header, visioning survey number 2. It was on every page, so you won't see that now. So that was one copy editor change I suggested that was not necessary. But can you jump to under the economy, Kath? Question number 7.
On page 13 or 14, page 14.
Which question, Joanne?
Yeah, it was question number 7, and it had to do with promote capitalizing on existing strengths to promote business development. We kicked this around a little bit in terms of what would we say our strengths are. I'm not sure we reached a consensus on that. I'm not sure this question does much for us in terms of the vision survey. So I was recommending that it simply be dropped. Any thoughts on that? Are we okay? Okay. Susan?
I like the idea of combining our existing strengths to promote business development. Maybe the words promoting capitalization might not be the right phrase, but I do think that we have some existing strengths that we can use to promote business development. I just don't know if promote capitalization is, as I said, is the right combination of words. How about I don't know, continue to identify, I don't know, something with
emphasize existing strengths. I don't know.
I guess the question I raised is the person answering this question will ask, what strengths?
I asked that.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I asked that 2 weeks ago and said, it was a hypothetical question. We ought to know what our strengths are. And I think we do have some. So as a board, we should be able to say, if you're right, Joanne, if someone says to the board, the planning board, okay, what are your existing strengths? someone on this board better be able to answer the question. I mean, I have some ideas of what our existing strengths are, but as a board, we should be able to respond if this is going to be our document.
Yeah, so I think that was I wasn't trying to, run away from this, but
Right.
in the absence of being able to delineate and say what our strengths are with regard to the economy and economic development, I'd be more than glad to put in, I mean, maybe we look at it, we say, such as,
Well, either that or, we talk, ever since we started with the survey about having some internal papers for use of the board that would sort of clarify what we mean by existing strengths. We talked about maybe listing out all our historic, places, the opportunity for play, just something so that if someone says, okay, what do you do in Yarmouth? As a board, we can pull that out of the file and say, this is what our existing strengths are. One of our biggest strengths is our location on the Cape.
yeah.
I mean, central
Well,
location on the Cape.
I would absolutely agree. So perhaps we could put in such as our location.
We could, or we could leave it as is, and then when someone says to us, maybe in the second round, they might say, look, on all those questions where you use phrases that you don't define, maybe they'll push us to start including those in the questions. We have not so far identified specific things. We talked about, historic treasures. We talked about historical activity. We're going to talk about strengths of the town. We know what they are, or should know what they are. And if the town says to us, look, if the round 2 of the survey, people say, look, we want more clarity on that, we could add that stuff back in. I don't know if you could say, for example, our central location, but there are many others. I don't know.
What might you tick off as the others?
I would say central location, an active chamber of commerce, an engaged, generally an engaged small to middle-sized business community, and a planning board and a zoning board that tries to encourage business, but at the same time protect. I mean, that's a strength. The fact that we have a good planning board, we have a good zoning board, we're centrally located. We have an engaged business community that wants to see things better. And that was discussed almost in every one of my workshops in regard to Route 28 was, we have to do something with Route 28, and we have some of the ingredients. We don't have everything, but we have some of the ingredients to promote business development. I mean, that's one of the things we should be talking about is promoting business development. That's the second hand of the whole conversation about affordable housing. A lot of people would argue, if you look at real estate listing, we've got tons of affordable housing. We just don't have enough people that can afford them. We have a workforce or a population that can't afford what is traditionally defined as affordable housing. So part of that conversation is we should be promoting business development in Yarmouth. And 28 is going to be a perfect example. If anyone wants to come in and build a motel, we should be saying it's got to be a 12-month, 24/7 operation, no more seasonal thing. And you have to have stuff that people are going to want to come to in November. That's promoting business development.
No, absolutely. Kathy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think when I originally put that in, I had some examples of what we meant, and a lot of the examples got taken out. I think that wasn't necessarily along the lines of what Susan was talking about, but those are interesting ideas. I think it was more like the Cape Cod Rail Trail, the Cape Cod Baseball League, Bridgewater State University on Cape Cod, all of these unique things that are happening in Yarmouth that could maybe draw other businesses to our area. The whole arts and culture with the Cape Cod
All that
Cultural
stuff,
Center.
right? All that stuff should be in our file so that if someone says to Kathy, "Okay, what do you mean?" Kathy can pull it out and say, "Here's what we talked about."
Okay, and we did. I mean, the whole idea of this initial engagement here was to talk about the strengths. So we did talk about the strengths, and they're not just our strengths in economic development, but much broader than that. So just a suggestion. It sounds like we want to leave it in there. That's fine. But you're absolutely right, Susan. We need to be able to articulate those in an elevator pitch of about 15 or 20 seconds.
Yeah, I like Will's idea of maybe using emphasize, or what's another word for be cognizant of, be aware of.
Where? Yeah.
Be aware of existing strengths to promote business development, emphasize our existing strengths to promote business development. That's a good word too.
Or just promote existing strengths.
I think we have a lot of existing
How about
strengths that we're not
promote-
capitalizing on, I guess
How
is the
about promote
point.
existing strengths to enhance business development,
To encourage?
to encourage business development?
Yeah,
Promote
okay.
strengths to encourage development. That's
Okay.
good.
Kath, did you capture that? I see a thumbs up from Liz.
Promote existing strengths to,
Encourage business development.
and I would change that as, on the goals as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And then with regard to recreation, this is a simple one. We don't have to look at the question. I don't think we'll have any real issue here. I added swimming and townways to water as access points. We did not have townways to water as access points. We had boat ramps, we had beaches, we had various other ones on recreation, and that was under questions in recreation, question 3 and question 8, Kath. Could maybe just,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. You're trying to do 3 things at once?
So I'm sorry, recreation?
Yeah, I think it was question 3.
Yes, ways to water.
And townways to water. I think that's, and then under question 8, I suggested swimming. If that's okay with everybody. Okay, those were my my primary ads.
Swimming is in 8. Are you saying that that was added?
No, that was added. That was not in there originally. I don't
Okay,
think.
thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Then I think we're going to let the survey run. We're good with it. We're good with it. We're going to say all set. All right, good.
So there's one edit and then we can go live at any time?
Sounds good to me.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you for your help on this. This is great. Okay. And everybody was okay with the preamble. Let me just quickly just remind everybody about the schedule on this now, and this is for the public as well. So we've finalized the survey, which is great, and the vision statement. Vision statement will be going in a package. Vision statement and goals will be going in a package to the Board of Selectmen. It's May 25th. That's next Tuesday. We'll launch the survey June 1. It'll run for 2 months. At our regularly scheduled June 16th board meeting, we will have a formal presentation update on the visioning process.
At a different time, correct? A new time?
Correct, at 4:30.
Okay.
That is a time change, 4:30.
Joanne, who's going to lead that update on the 16th?
Joanne Crowley.
Well,
Okay.
it's a regular planning board meeting, Susan, so
Oh,
it will
just-
be all of us.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be all of us. Yep.
Okay.
Actually, we're going alphabetically, so Britta, I think, is first. No, Baron
Yeah.
would be first.
Yeah.
So Tom, it's going to go Baron and then Britta.
Fine.
Okay, then Crowley.
There you go.
Okay, so go
I'm
from
at the end, I love it.
there. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're that's a topic for tonight in community visioning. I think we can close down.
Joanne, can I
Quick
just say-
question.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Will. Yeah. Brad, I'm sorry.
I apologize. Just because I've got a calendar and I'm just doing my own little thing here. I apologize. The Board of Selectmen, are we allowed to be in person next Tuesday?
Right, I was just gonna ask that.
Still no?
I don't believe so.
Oh.
They have not set the agenda yet.
For
I
the
don't
love of
believe
God.
that the executive order is going to be done until June 15th.
June 15th.
So I had talked to town council actually about our meeting. And I think we were going to go with it being virtual as well, because it's the day after to try, if for some reason the emergency is not released on the 15th. I mean, I have to start promoting this. I need to start getting the information out to people. I wanted to put it on the cards for the annual town meeting. So we're going to go virtual. We thought there was going to be some type of grace period with regard to those meetings.
Okay, so if we're going to support Joe on the 25th, we just have to log in again. We're not going to just go down and bang on the door and sit in our little chairs.
Well, we
Right.
could, but we'd probably get thrown out, or arrested or something.
Yeah, okay,
No one's going to arrest you.
all right. Thank you. I apologize, Madam Chair.
No, that's a good question, Brad. Thank you. Okay. Next on our agenda tonight is the Cape Cod Commission Development of Regional Impact DRI review with regard to the cell tower. Kathy's going to, if you wouldn't mind, Kathy's got just a couple of slides she's going to pick out from the DRI showing the location, but so we can all understand what we're talking about here.
Thank you for printing that out, Kathy. My
I'm-
printer never would have survived that.
It was painful to print out that many, but it was really helpful, I think, to see some of the differences. Do you want me to just kind of give a brief overview,
Yes,
Joanne?
please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we all know where this is. It's the intersection of Forest Road and Route 28. This is the Our Lady of the Highway church, and mostly surrounded by parking. What they want to do is put the cell tower and the equipment in a little corner that's in the wooded area. I'm just going to move down. So this is Route 28. The intersection will be over here. Right now, this whole area is wooded. They're going to be basically taking away all of the trees facing Route 28 and most of the ones on the side here in order to do some grading to get up. They're going to be filling this in a couple feet and having the 120-foot cell tower with the exposed antennas for up to 4 carriers located here. This whole equipment area is enclosed in chain link fence with 3 strands of barbed wire. The main entrance would still be here, and they're proposing to have 4 to 6 foot tall plantings here in the front to help screen it. I think this kind of shows you a little bit more the difference. Here's the existing ground level, here are the trees, and this is where the cell tower, how much higher it would be. And again, they would have 4 different carriers that would have exposed antenna. I think a lot of times you might have seen things like the cell tower behind the post office directly across the street. That's a concealed monopole, and I think you don't really see, and that's also only 70 feet tall, so it did not need to go through a DRI. It just needed to get a special permit through the Zoning Board of Appeals. The base of the pole is about 6 feet in diameter down here when you measure, and about 3 feet in diameter at the top. And here they're just showing in sections what it would look like with grading up. And here's the fencing, the small trees, existing trees that would remain, and then the cell tower itself. They also did a bunch of photo simulations that were included in the packet. They did them at the 120 feet, which is what they were requesting. But I believe the Cape Cod Commission staff asked them to also run it at 90 feet. So that's why you have 2 sets of photo simulations in the packet. You can see here where the different photo simulations were taken. The project is right here where the star is. This is the intersection right here of Forest Road and Route 28, and there are no photo simulations either from here on Forest Road looking towards the cell tower, or here on Route 28 looking towards the cell tower. I feel like that's probably the location where it would be most visible for our community. So when you start looking at these simulations, this is the bulb at the top's the 120, and then the rag at the bottom is where it would be at 90. So they're just peppering around town, and this is where which is the existing screening, which would remain, and that's what it would look like. This is actually at Forest Road and Long Pond looking south, and the church is over on the side there. And of course, you have a lot of screening there, so you're not going to see it particularly. This is over by the metal detectors at Forest Road in Old Main. Again, that's not a place where you would see it particularly well, but right in the section there, you can kind of see it right here. This is the historic district, very close, but not within the historic district. And again, I do believe this is in the parking lot. I'm just going to go through very quickly. This is a parking lot, I believe, of the Shaws. You can see it there. Pancake Man. Again, you can't really see it because it's hidden with the trees. Papagino's. A lot of places they really went and looked. It really wasn't visible because they were either so far away or they were doing it from the north or the west where there was significant screening. That's where I think that's at Seagull Beach. And then here it is at 90 feet. And obviously it looks much less noticeable at 90 feet. Just going to go through really quickly. And again, a lot of places it's not even particularly visible because of the locations for the photo simulations. So I'm just going to stop sharing. So they have their public hearing is scheduled for June 9th at 5 p.m. I've been asked by the commission to provide some type of letter specifically regarding planning along Route 28 and the permitting process that would be required. That's kind of standard for DRI, so they get a perspective of what the local permitting and what the local planning efforts have been in that particular area. I will also probably be providing some individual comments with regard to the application itself. There is a technical bulletin for these types of DRIs for cell towers, and they are asking for some waivers with regard to the height, waivers with not having control over the full fall zone. And those are some things that I was planning on commenting on in more detail to my planner letter to the commission. In your packets, there was a draft letter for consideration by the board. I'm not exactly sure how you guys feel about it, what you wanted to say. I gave a little planning background and all the effort that has been gone into making Route 28 look better. And then indicating that, there really was some issues with the aesthetics of the cell tower and that more effort could be made to camouflage it. But that's my spiel, and I kind of leave it to you guys to have a discussion or see if you want to submit a letter, don't want to submit a letter, want to edit the letter, that type of thing.
I was involved with zoning for the pole that went up behind the post office, and zoning board was very specific about making it as unobtrusive as possible, making it look like a big flagpole. And I see that you've included that kind of comment in the draft letter. It does make sense, but the one thing that we had available to zoning on all of the different repeater stations that we had around the town, and there are about a dozen of them. The map of coverage and why a particular area was needing a new repeater was clearly identified. I went through the documentation you provided, Kathy, and I saw no such map, although they describe it in the language. They describe that this is needed because we say it's needed, and so I don't. The one thing that this is a very technical presentation that they made, and to not have that map, they'll probably do it at the public hearing, but it was not in the material that you sent.
Yeah, I only sent you an excerpt of the material that just showed their responses with regard to meeting the bulletin, the photo simulations and the plans. And then there was a link in the information that was sent on last Friday for the full information that's on the Cape Cod Commission's website for this DRI. They do have a consultant that they hire, the Cape Cod Commission hires, to respond specifically with regard to the need for it. So I think that was something I personally was going to be relying on their expert to talk about with regard to need. I think one of the things that I'm going to comment on is with regard to location is a lot of other carriers have done exactly what you're talking about, Tom. Verizon across the street, they did a 70-foot pole. They hit it very well. It's behind the post office. They've done a lot of work with putting the antennas on top of utility poles. They've done a lot of effort to increase their coverage while being less visually intrusive to a community. Because let's face it, everybody could put up a 200-foot cell phone tower and improve their coverage significantly. And we've also had many. We had the Methodist Church there, where they had that was AT&T, has the antenna in the steeple, on Old Main Street, and that looks great. It's totally not even noticeable.
Yep.
They have a small generator in the back, but they did a great job of hiding it and that type of thing. So, I mean, do they need just one large facility, or can they start looking at maybe dealing with their coverage in a different way? And if they really want to continue to pursue having one large antenna, I think they need to do a lot more to camouflage what it looks like. I know in Harwich, they did do that with a giant flagpole. It's right at the intersection there next to the Stop and Shop in East Harwich. And they have a giant flag on it, and they put it in a park, kind of like a little bit of a park wooded area, and all of the equipment is hidden, and it's far less obtrusive. And it's almost like, could almost be like a little bit of a directional thing. You say, oh yeah, when you get to the flag, take the left, or it could be a somewhat of more of a positive thing than kind of what they're proposing at this point. I also don't know whether this is their first shot at it, and they go this way, and knowing that they might have to do more in the future. But the bulletin requires them to camouflage it, and in my opinion, they have not done that.
Yeah.
Susan?
Camouflage, a tower that I've seen before, camouflaging something like this is to put up fake pine tree branches, as if artificial pine needles and all that sort of stuff. After a while, it looks ugly. Trying to camouflage it, but it doesn't work. Not only the area, my concern is not only the area that this is an area that needs it, but the area that they're trying to serve. How wide an area is this being applied? Is it just the central portion of the Cape, or does this, because of the height that they're requiring or asking for, does this cover the majority of the Cape?
I don't think it covers anywhere near the majority of the Cape. I think it kind of covers this isolated pocket in South Yarmouth that isn't being covered by them. And it's acknowledged there's problems. I mean, I have Verizon and I have terrible cell coverage, even here at Town Hall. So I'm sure AT&T is known as having a few more problems than Verizon. So I'm not surprised that they have a problem. But, it shouldn't be at the expense of all the hard work that the planning board in the town of Yarmouth has done to make, Route 28 look a little bit better. Because that cell town's never going anywhere. That's going to be there until the technology changes.
Yeah,
Susan,
in some
do
ways,
you have a comment? Tom, just hold on one second. Susan has a comment.
Sure.
Just to follow up on Tom's comment, we were both on the zoning board when that tower at the post office was discussed, and I think Tom's right. The vast majority, quite frankly, of the conversation was, how is the thing going to look, and how can we disguise it? Kathy, is there any explanation as to why there are no photos, no simulations from 28 looking toward the church and from Forest looking toward the church? Because that would be the most hideous view.
Agreed. And that's in my comments, and maybe you guys want to add that into your comments. I'm going to request those 2 additional photo simulations be done. I did have a brief conversation with the commission, and they made it sound like they provided the photo simulations where they were required to by their regulations, which I was surprised, because it seemed a little it seemed a little obvious that it was missing at the worst location.
That's the most obvious view.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention is it appears to me that this is like an economy of scale that they're going to benefit from, but we're not. They're going to share the cost of one huge thing, and we're going to, if it's approved, we would have to figure out how to disguise it or help them figure out how to disguise it. To use the term, they're using the term sort of wooded area by the church, that's really euphemistic. That's not a heavily wooded area there in the back corner of that parking lot. In fact, I walked through it yesterday and actually looked back, and you can see the houses. You can almost see down to the funeral home there. What is it? Is the Blute or whatever it is? Let's say that's heavily wooded is kind of totally ridiculous. And I think Tom's comments about who is this going to serve? We all know that there are cold spots on the Cape. I mean, they just don't get good service because and we don't have a lot of mountains. I mean, we get very sort of little hills, and we still don't get good service. And so that has sort of been at least in front of the zoning board, that was the excuse to do these 70-footers. And we were very cautious about how they looked, where they went, and this to me, and then to add insult to injury, they want to take down trees along 28. I mean, the whole thing is just very poorly thought out, and quite frankly, very pro tower and anti-community. We don't benefit at all.
I have one further concern. The tower behind the post office. Why? My question is, why is there a need for another tower that close?
Exactly.
And
needs analysis.
I mean, it may be a different company, it may be a different carrier.
It's Verizon has the top 2 slots. The bottom 2 slots are available. Obviously, they're much lower on the pole and have less coverage. That is something that I'm commenting on, is that those 2 slots are available in that poll.
The thought occurs to me that if there was need for getting a high point to put a tower like this, there is the water tower on German Hill that is at least 100-foot elevation plus, and with the tower adjacent to the water tower would be a much safer or a much less obtrusive location. There are much fewer housing areas there that would be visible, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I don't know if that kind of consideration has been made with this installation.
Susan? Yep.
Why don't you go to Brad? He's been sitting there.
Okay, Brad?
Liz, you had your hand up first. You want to say something?
No, well, only that I'm really disgusted by this application. And frankly, like, my feelings are, I'm taking it personally that they're slapping this in the middle of a 28. The Cape Cod Commission is allowing, or even bringing this before us when they helped us try to prove that 28 is need of help. Like, it's just, I just don't get it. I just don't get, yeah, there's a steeple. Hide it in there, like do something, make it into an art exhibit or something that becomes an attraction. If you're gonna actually have to slap up a 90-foot or 120-foot thing, make it something worth looking at, but not something that's gonna just be an eyesore. And you're right, it's gonna last forever, Susan. This is something that we have worked so hard on, and there are no trees. I mean, that's a complete.
You would think they were talking about the Rockies.
It's an insult. It's an insult that they're saying that is heavily wooded. Like, we don't even know what's going on in our own backyard. I mean, come on.
Right.
So, frankly, I think it's an insult. I'm going to say it. It's an insult to the town to consider something on 28 in one of the most prime economic development areas that we have got major attention that we need to spend on there. And
Kathy, I think,
nothing that the church is going to benefit except for financial.
Well,
That's
that's-
really what it comes down to, is that the church is looking to make money.
well, let's not attack the Catholic Church.
Well, okay, well, the property owner, who is
Oh,
the
right,
church,
right.
okay? The property owner is looking to make a buck.
Absolutely.
And at what expense?
Yep, I agree. I agree.
Well,
Kathy, the
let's-
comment you made about the last two slots not being taken is very revealing, because they could go forever without being taken because they're so low on the poll, which means they really want the high poll for Verizon.
But then they don't need to put another poll somewhere else. I think their
Exactly.
idea is that they just want to narrow it down. But just to get to what Liz was saying, AT&T did apply for and receive a special permit to put a cell tower within the steeple on the church building itself.
Right.
They ended up not doing it. My understanding was because there were structural problems with the building itself that prevented them from doing that. And then I'm not exactly sure how they went from that to 120 feet, but
Agreed.
and the same thing happened with Verizon on they were going to put in a little cupola on top of the post office, and they ended up not doing that because, again, the building wasn't able to structurally support that. So I guess it kind of depends on how it was constructed and what's underneath it and that type of thing. But
Brett?
they did have a permit for that.
Yep, Brett?
You all are almost spot on. Just a couple things. We have towers in Dennis, up on Hokum Rock. We have towers on South Sea. We have towers down in Falmouth. We make money off renting space off our towers. In fact, the tower in Falmouth is the second tallest structure, man-made structure on Cape Cod. If you can name the other one, 2 points. We're 504 feet above sea level. With
Cape
the
Cod
CIB.
Hospital.
No, that would be probably fairly far down the
It was
list.
made by aliens. I don't know what is not made by.
One is in Provincetown, the other one's in Falmouth. We have the one in Falmouth. Which one?
Okay, well then don't believe what you read in the newspaper. Okay, Brett.
There we
That's
go.
cool.
But long story short, the height is going to give them. I was wondering who's going to have the first one. Obviously, will be T-Mobile. Second will be AT&T, or vice versa. I don't think Verizon's on that one. Isn't Verizon? Yeah, Verizon's not on that one. The two spots below it, obviously, will be rental income. That's what we do. If you go by our towers, you'll notice bays on our tower, and we rent them. And it's good money, and it's consistent money. I can understand their willingness, or they're wanting a 120-foot structure. I can understand why they're probably not up on the water tower up on German Hill, because I don't think that coverage would adequately cover Great Island. I think there's probably some people on Great Island that do not have good cell service, and everybody wants good cell service. I know when Christy, my host, was a client of mine, and every once in a while I'd be allowed to go out to see Christy out on Great Island. It took me 18 minutes simply to go from the Stop and Shop with a 6-pack of cola all the way out to Christy's house, and we were still in Yarmouth. I mean, it's just asinine how long that piece of land is. So I can only assume what kind of a strata you have to get good cell coverage on Great Island from German Hill. I don't think it's possible. So I can see why they'd.
But Brad, it's all downhill. It's all line of sight.
I agree, but I don't know what kind of wattage and all that. I'm just assuming why they picked it this spot. That's all I'm doing. I have no scientific data behind me on this one. I can just assume it's centrally located. They need the height. I think 90 feet would probably do okay for them, but 90 feet would kill the two lower ones below it, unless somebody really only wanted a repeater. I don't think they'd get much rental income off something below that. So that's why we're going for the height. As for a closure or making it look good, I'm up in the air. However the board wants to vote, I'll vote with it to make it a unanimous vote. I just know if I had AT&T or if I had T-Mobile, I'd want better service. And if it goes up, so be it. But that's me thinking as a consumer and not as a planning board member. But I totally understand where the board's coming from. I just wanted to bring to light the monetary costs about putting this up and why they're trying to get some money back in their own pocket.
Susan?
Kathy, did they indicate other locations that they examined? I know with the one that Tom and I were engaged with, they came forward with several locations that they looked at and discarded for various reasons. And that's why they sort of ended up in back of the post office. Were there any other sites that they looked at?
I think they had to do some type of analysis in order to identify that there was no other suitable locations. I have not seen that or looked at that part of the application. This is the application.
I know they're huge. But maybe I don't know, in a verbal exchange or maybe even a letter, you could find out where else did they look in Yarmouth?
I think that will be part of their presentation, or can be
Yeah.
asked at the public
Okay.
hearing as well.
Yeah, okay.
It's not going to be a one-day hearing. It's going to end up getting extended.
Will, Will?
Brad mentioned
Well-
other towers, but there's a communication tower off of White's Path, almost near Old Main Street, near Old Main. I don't know why something like that couldn't have been modified.
It's full.
It's
It's
full.
owned by another. It's full. It's owned by another radio group,
Yeah.
but the tower is full.
Yeah, but Will?
Yes, I just want to say happy birthday to Brad. Now I'm going to take off my birthday hat, Madam Chair. Okay. So I was late, so it's my fault. But happy birthday, Brad. And thank you to Kathy and the chair for telling me, because honestly, I wouldn't have known. This is a hot mess. And I guess as one of the newest members of the planning board, this is the first time that I've been part of a discussion about a cell tower. I guess my perspective is simply this: what can we do to stop this? Like, in other words, maybe not all of us, but like, where do we fit in the approval process, if anywhere? And what can we do, if anything, Kathy and Madam Chair, to vigorously reduce the size of this at the least and improve the actual location and siting of it at the most? Maybe those are the limits. I don't know. If someone could just help give me a little perspective, that would be extremely helpful. Thank you.
I think the planning board obviously will be influential to the subcommittee. I think your point of view does matter. So I think submitting a comment letter is very important. I also think coming and speaking at the public hearing and getting up and getting other people that you know who may not know about this to come to the hearing and start speaking out against it. Like I say, they are asking for waivers from the height, and they're asking for waivers from not wanting to control all of the fall zone. So those are things where, I mean, if the town comes out very strongly against giving waivers, which I'm going to ask that they do not provide them with waivers.
Right. And Madam Chair, thank you, Kathy. That's where I was headed in this discussion. Is it feels like there's a unanimous opposition to what's been presented. Again, I'm just summarizing. And that maybe there's an opportunity to move to how can we make Kathy's letter as strong as it possibly can be, given the context of what we're actually able to do. Again, asking as the newest member. I hope that makes sense.
That's right.
Let me
Your letter. It's your letter.
Let me just
write.
clarify a couple of things. One, the letter that's in our packet for tonight would be one from the planning board, which is separate and distinct from the official regulatory requirement that Kathy has to send as a town planner commenting on the DRI. So for us, ours can be as opinionated as we want. I think what I'm hearing is that there couldn't be a worse location. Well, there probably could be a worse location. I can identify at least 3 or 4, like right in my backyard.
In the middle of
But
28.
yeah,
In
or
the
somewhere-
middle of Camp Wingate, Kirkland. Yeah, I can think of a few. Madam Chair.
perhaps Great Island is a good location. And quite, I say that
It would
quite
improve their coverage, would it not, Madam Chair?
There's lots of room out in Great Island. Anyway, what I'm hearing is location is our primary concern. We know self-service is important. Improved self-service is good for everyone, especially in these days when kids are going to school remotely. Supporting cell tower development should be high on our list of of helping our economic development process here in town. However, that location is a stopper for me. And the fact that there were interesting photographs. One, most of them were obscured by trees. I suppose I could have done the same. And the primary locations that Kathy talked about, looking west on Route 28, standing in front of McDonald's. Why was there not a photograph there? Why was there not a photograph standing in front of the post office? Looking northwest, no photograph.
Right.
I could assume why there wasn't a photograph.
I think I could guess too, Liz. So I think the absence of that that kind of
Good faith effort.
thank you. Exactly. Good faith effort at due diligence and fairness and transparency. The biggest issue here for me is transparency. You know, and that is maybe part of our comments through the public hearing, which we can talk about in a second, but I want to get over to Tom. Tom, you have a comment?
Well, not so much a comment about the tower, but I looked in the bylaws on the section for communication towers on our bylaws, not necessarily what the commission needs. And I think I've read it to the point where this is going to have to go before the zoning board as well for an approval, just like the other tower did behind the post office. So there's going to be another cut at the apple here by another town board, and I'll probably sit on that one at that time. So I just bring that up as a comment because I've read the bylaws, and I think that's the impression that we should carry at this point.
Yes, Susan?
And Joanne, as a former member of the zoning board, Tom's right. They will ask they are very aware and eager to hear what the planning board has to say, because they like to incorporate our thinking in many respects into what they're trying to do. So they will be eager to hear what we want to say, either officially, unofficially, and if we can, and maybe by then, hopefully, we'll have these in-person meetings and we can go and show how disappointed we are, quite frankly, at the lack of good faith effort on the part of this giant corporation coming in. But I think you're right. We want to be supportive of business development, but not at the expense of, as Liz says, everything else. It's absolutely not worth it. I know the price of living in a free society is very high. And this is one of the prices that we're trying to put together a piece of a price here that we're willing to pay. And right now I've heard one word that once I heard they wouldn't take out trees, I said, that's, I'm a Robert Frost person when it comes to trees. And it was dead in the water as soon as I heard that.
And the Lorax, don't forget the Lorax, Susan.
Yeah.
Yes, Kathy?
I just want to caution Tom that if he thinks he's sitting on the zoning board of appeals, is going to be hearing this, you should be abstaining from anything related to the planning board.
Right.
I know that you ran into trouble before on that.
Yeah.
So I'm even this level of discussions with you being on the ZBA might be an issue. I know that Blue Towers tried to get 2 planning board members, I believe, kicked off of their hearing because they had said prejudicial things ahead of their meeting, because it actually went before the planning board in Mashpee. So I'm not sure whether it's kosher for you to necessarily sit on the ZBA for that one.
I understand exactly what you're saying. The other incident that you mentioned, you and I should have a discussion on that at a future time. But it may not be as serious as you imply. But you're right. I should be careful if I have to recuse myself for the ZBA. I agree totally with your comment.
Okay, so yes, Brad?
Could I just get clarification? I find the zoning tower in Harwich attractive. And that's very tall. It's probably 100 some odd feet high because it's a lot taller than 70.
It's 150.
Lou Nicanello's towers at his property in South Yarmouth are 80 feet tall. So I have a good idea what 80 feet is. And I'm pretty sure that Harwich flagpole is much taller than 80 as well. So are we at least, I don't want to say size matters. We know size doesn't matter, but in planning, size matters. So is it the way it looks or is it the height?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Location, the way it looks.
Okay.
and the
See, I don't have in downtown Harwich at the middle of their busiest section of 39 and 137 is a glorious large flagpole. And I haven't heard a Harwich person jump up and down and exclaim it's just disruptive.
No, in that case, the location worked and it looks great. And they made it work. They put the area around that flagpole, that they made it like an icon, as Kathy says, it's sort of like a locational thing. That's not what they're doing here. They're calling this a wooded area. It's not a wooded area. They didn't supply the right photographs to make an informed decision from, let alone the board, let alone anyone. Right now the cell tower is not fully utilized, and it looks hideous.
Well, it won't be fully utilized until it's built, because then they put the process out to bid. As someone who's been on those bidding processes, then engineers from around the country, if not around the world, will come to that site through schematics and figure out if they want to bid to cover their needs. Right. So there won't be anything there until it's built. So that it has to remain empty. But so right now it's both the height and what it looks like.
And the location.
Okay. All right.
The location literally on 28 is of concern to me.
Yeah.
But that's our business zone. So, I mean, I don't mind if it's put on a golf course too. You want to put it on the golf course, it's fine. I mean, but
that might be a great place for it.
Brad, okay. I mean, there's a difference between what they're proposing, or at least what they showed us, and a flagpole.
I agree, but I just was trying to get clarification. To me, the height doesn't bother me, but what it looks like does. But right now, I just found out it's the location, what it looks like, and the size.
If it is a flagpole, then, let's see what that looks like. Let's see the other options. But what they're proposing as of right now, they're having, showing us is not acceptable, regardless if it's 90 feet or if it's 120 feet. In my opinion, the way that the aesthetics of it and the experience that we're trying to provide our visitors and our residents in an area that we're trying to really enhance, it's just not complimentary of everything that we've been trying to work on. Now, if it's a flagpole that complements, the all-American town of Yarmouth, then I'm all for it. But I want to see it. But they didn't show anything creative, in my opinion, that makes me want to support something that's, that they're going to make money off of our town. So, that's all.
The pole behind the post office, they too had exterior repeaters, and they withdrew those to the inside of the pole. As a result of the comments that they were received on the first presentation, they came in before ZBA, so they accommodated that. But it's a smaller pole with a smaller service area, so there may be other aspects of that with a taller pole.
Joanne,
Susan?
If we're going to put solar panels on the links, why couldn't we have this tower out there and as Liz says, sort of make it some sort of like really spiffy outdoor architectural design or something?
They could do a sailboat mask. I mean, come on. They have billions of dollars that they can put towards a creative team to make it something appropriate for the area and something for our community. But they did not. And that's where I find it really like, come on, this is just, plop a thing into a picture. And
exactly. I think they threw something up against the wall to see how we would react. And
I'm Italian. They can't do that with spaghetti in my
Well, but also,
opinion. So,
but you're
no.
right. We have to be we're going to be a lot more discriminatory now and, and clever about what goes on in our town. We're not just going to bow down because 18 comes in and says, we're going to give you a bunch of money. That
There's
doesn't cut it
choice,
anymore.
right. There's opportunities, there's choices out there, and
Yeah.
we see examples all over Europe. They do it for other places.
And they're
Why not for us?
architecturally spectacular. They could be, there's a million things they could do in it. We could have a series of sales coming off it. I mean, and if we did it out by the links, you would see it everywhere and it should be spectacular. The visual would be great.
Well, this is the one of the other comments is we don't know if there was any true alternative siting analysis. Where else did they look in Yarmouth?
Exactly
And
what
what was
it was.
wrong? What were the issues or problems with those areas that they looked at?
Exactly. Why were they discarded and why did they ultimately fixate on this? They fixated on this, as Lou says, because the church went and said to them, we'll let you come into our backyard.
I am sure that the real estate purchase and sale agreement or lease, whatever it might be with the Archdiocese of New Bedford,
Right.
which owns that property,
Right.
will be, a key thing. Perhaps, there's nothing in it for us.
You're right. Zero. In
There's
fact, Tom,
nothing,
when we did
because
the-
I don't know the legal arrangements as to whether or not they're leasing the property, whether they're buying the property. Was that in the?
They're only,
it's
I
leased-
believe they're leasing
It's a
10,000
lease.
square feet.
They're
It's a
leasing,
lease.
yeah.
It's a long-term lease.
Okay, so again, that doesn't put the property back on the tax rolls.
No.
It's owned by the Catholic Church, so, or the Archdiocese. So I want to help Kathy in terms of reaching some consensus here about a letter. It sounds like we should get on record right away with some preliminary concerns and questions. Kathy had a draft of a letter that
I don't see the draft, Kathy. Is it in the packet?
It's right after the agenda,
On the flip side,
on the flip
Yep.
side,
Susan,
on the
it's
flip
like-
side, there you
it's on
go.
the reverse side. And it's a
It's-
single page Town of Yarmouth letterhead.
It wasn't superly strongly written because I did not have any idea how the board was going to feel about it.
yeah,
'Cause
so
I did run into Brad outside town hall and he didn't seem all that concerned about it. So I was like, oh, maybe no one else is concerned but me.
well, I think we have a good sense of the board's concern here, Kathy, and I guess my one concern about the final sentence in the final paragraph suggesting that we would suggest some alternatives. We don't want to open that door yet.
Oh, and it's not our job to.
We don't want to open that door yet. I think we should be on record with some questions about alternative site analysis. And our real concern, as you have described, the VCOD, that area, how we're right in the middle of a visioning exercise,
Right.
what we want the town of Yarmouth to be. The Route 28 corridor is it is our lifeline, the way it looks. When Walgreens across the street wanted to build a new Walgreens, they went through hoops to make it look nice, to put up trees, to put up separators, to make it architecturally complementary.
Thank you, Yarmouth
so-
Planning Board. Oh,
I'm
I'm
sorry?
sorry.
What?
We had dogfights with the two brothers. But
Oh,
yeah,
well-
it was a dogfight.
Well, to me, I think we won because it's a fairly good. I think, not attractive, but as good as a pharmacy can be. Anyway, so in line with that, Kathy, do you think you have enough to work with to recraft something? What can we
I
do?
guess,
I help you?
I mean, maybe we can talk a little bit about it. I mean, the front of the letter talks about, all the improvements and the efforts we've put into Route 28, talks about the VCOD, talks about, this was, improving Route 28 was one of the key visions from our identified by our community during our community visioning process. We also have sewers coming. I wanted to emphasize that. We're expecting a lot of economic redevelopment. And then the last paragraph is probably where you get into some of the guts of what you might want to say about the actual proposal. It says, although we appreciate and understand the need for reliable wireless coverage, it cannot be done at the expense of the progress Yarmouth has made to improve Route 28. The 120-foot cell tower, as currently designed with exposed antennas and the visibility from public ways, undermines our community vision and is more suited for an industrialized or highly isolated area. More effort needs to be made to camouflage the cell tower, and then I say by enclosing the antennas within the monopole, disguising it as a flagpole, and locating the ground equipment in a less visible location. It sounds like you guys don't want to say something like that. You just might want to say more effort needs to be put into camouflaging it to make it fit in within the context of the area.
I would not say that.
No, I don't think we
Don't
want-
give them the answer. Make them come up with the solution. We're handing them the solution with that sentence.
I think the
thi-
flex,
As Liz says, make them come up with something very clever, something that we can be proud of, something that maybe would enhance our central location on Cape Cod and help with our branding.
I mean, you can Google it right now and see creative ways of cell
Right.
towers, and you'll see even church options that is covered with that looks like stained glass,
Right.
and it's a tower that's covered. Or there's one in Albuquerque that's covered that looks like a giant cactus. I mean, right. So
Yeah.
there's options. There's ones that are
but I
beautiful
like
that
the idea of the flag of the mast. I did not think of a ship's mast.
Yeah.
something like that, and they have a lot of money. I'm
Mhm.
a
Rolling.
volunteer and I've already came up with 10 different ideas. I mean, and you don't get paid as much as they do. So come on.
Yeah,
Kathy-
please stop. You're leaving. Don't leave some money lying around here, Liz. Like, you better stop talking because you're doing their job. And I mean that respectfully, Madam Chair.
No, I hear you. Yes, Susan, you had another comment?
A couple of points, Joanne, that you made. I would certainly in that last paragraph, Kathy, highlight the fact that the board is either disappointed or whatever word you want, at the lack of transparency, the lack of a complete package, and the lack of really a good faith effort to provide a something we can be proud of.
Can we think of a stronger word than disappointed? That's like because I say that, Susan, I hear you. Because
No,
that sounds like my dad talking,
No,
It's
what I
like,
would do though is.
I want to be like,
But Kathy's going to sign this with a drop of blood with her.
no, I hear
Joanne
you.
signing
No,
it.
I'm saying,
Better be careful. There might be a Horcrux in there. Okay, that was a Harry Potter reference. Sorry.
I would
But
say the proposal as presented to the board was wholly unacceptable.
there you go.
It was wholly unacceptable. There was one thing that they offered us that we thought was a good idea, right? Then I'd say it.
Madam Chair, did you realize we were stepping into the octagon tonight when we put out this DRI conversation?
Planning
well,
planning
Susan's
board-
on a roll here.
No, I'll be quiet.
But they're trying to roll us, so we might as well push back and say, look, what they presented to us was wholly unacceptable.
I think
Well-
that language
Design,
we can agree to.
Well,
Brad?
Susan, I think, how about just saying they put forth the bare minimum? They followed the letter of the law, and that was fine. It may not meet our approval. It certainly didn't maybe check all the boxes, but instead of unwholly unacceptable, maybe something.
Okay, but I'm not going to even say what they did was fine. I would say, although the proposal met the quote, and I put the letter
In
of the
spite
law.
of.
Yes, or in spite of.
So, I mean, I think you can say both things and make Brad and Susan's points
And to
equally.
make it even more insulting, put letter of the law in quotes. That they, in spite of the fact it meant letter of the law, the planning board believes that the information presented was unacceptable, incomplete, and we could not reach any kind of preliminary decision based on what was presented to us, period.
Can I ask
Yes,
what the
Kathy.
minimum standard you're referring to? Because they're asking for waivers from the
No,
technical bulletin.
I'm just, when
So
we put up towers, and granted, this was, Jesus, years ago. When we put up the most recent one at Hokum Rock, we had to go through a lot of hoops, and we checked all the boxes for the town of Dennis of what they wanted. From everything from whether we were in the FAA flight zone, going into Hyannis to Chatham, to height above average terrain and all sorts. So I don't know what the rules are now, but all I'm saying is that I'm sure their legal team checked all the boxes legally. Now, they fell short on making it a flagpole. They fell short on taking a picture west and across the street at the post office. They fell short of making a great idea, a ship's mast. They fell short in a lot of areas. But I think if we're acting as a legal board, we could just say somehow, as Will said, and just, you did check the boxes, but they didn't.
It was not a good faith effort.
There you go. Something, but they did check all the boxes, because no legal team working at the behest of this kind of paperwork is going to put forth something that
Right.
didn't check legally all the boxes.
In spite of checking all the boxes and not putting, the planning board believes it was not a good faith effort to supply us with information in order to make a reasonable decision or to
Because
come
the
to.
triple C wouldn't have accepted the DRI, right? They wouldn't have scheduled a DRI hearing if the boxes hadn't been checked. So
Okay.
I
Good
think
point.
we're all
Good point.
getting there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, Kathy?
Can maybe Joanne and I work on it a little bit? We have one more meeting on the 2nd before we would need to submit this for the 9th. I'd like to get it in writing to them ahead of time, so all the committee members have it in their packet if possible. But we have another slice at this if we want. Now that we kind of have talked about it, get some vibes on where we're heading.
You can also submit it to us online in a one-way email where everybody just emails back either Joanne or you, Kathy.
Kathy, why don't we send it with send it along with the horse's head?
A wrapped fish in
Oh.
newspaper.
We got the Godfather up in here. Oh yeah. Dang.
This is what the planning board thinks, and wrap the letter around a dead fish or
And
something.
Liz is gonna say something about Italians, and I'm not sure it's appropriate.
No, I've been sitting here giggling while actually Susan's saying good faith effort when we're talking about a church property as well as holy, when I'm thinking it's spelled HOLY. So I am like, so sorry.
Good point.
Ooh,
Yes, Tom?
fantastic opportunities, Madam Chair.
That
I-
would be now. That would be funny. That would be good. Wholly unacceptable. That would make somebody smile.
Why not?
That would make somebody smile. Even the legal eagles would crack a
Yeah.
small grin.
Well, that might show, it might show up. You never know.
Send it
That-
along with the first communion.
Yes.
Send it out.
I just had one comment to Liz. You said you didn't want it, you wanted to get paid for all your ideas. Well,
No, I
I've
don't
writ-
want to get paid. We're a volunteer board. Let's just make sure that's in a public meeting.
I've
I'm
written-
not a paid employee.
I've written 3 books on future water supply planning for Southern New England. And the wife of one of my mentors up in Boston said, "Who's going to pay you for all the free engineering that you've provided?" And I haven't yet got a single penny. So there you go.
So it's
Same-
not
That's
Same
why
idea.
we volunteer, Tom, is that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's continue. Any other comments on this? So Kathy, that's a good idea. You and I, and anyone who wants to mark up the version that's there now.
That would be great.
Susan, you had some really good wording. I'd like, some comment about a lack of imagination here. That's disappointing that there just didn't seem to be any imagination here at all. But we'll maybe that's a kinder way to think about it in one aspect.
Kind.
So we'll work on that, and we'll have something back for our next meeting. We'll get it out to you well before that, so we can maybe get a final edit in for the meeting. Okay, is that okay with everybody? Good.
Yeah,
All right.
everybody send it to me. That would be great. I really appreciate that.
Okay. Next on our agenda was the Cape Cod Commission Climate Action Plan. Kathy had sent this to you. This is an extreme, a very comprehensive document. I feel like our most recent discussion on the cell tower, we could be pulling language from the Climate Action Plan, cutting down trees and the like, which the Climate Action Plan doesn't look favorably upon. But anyway, I did have a chance to go through the 2 main sections that I think may affect us in the future. There's nothing mandatory as for any of you who have read it. I hope I'm echoing what you might have found. There's nothing mandatory in it. It's all suggestions about changes that some of which we're already participating in. Green communities, as an example, they recommend that all towns take local action to become green communities. So there are those kinds of things, suggestions throughout. It's a comprehensive. It's got everything in the kitchen sink in it. A very well-structured document that I don't necessarily think we need to comment on because it's not needed. But I would encourage each of you to take a closer look at it because there are some things that they will be asking us to look at in the future and that they will be developing. Is several different kinds of model bylaws that they will be developing associated with energy efficiency. They talk about stretch codes for building codes. And so those kinds of things we need to keep on somewhat high alert when their suggestions come through. But they are gonna do a lot of work. The one concern I have is all of these suggestions require money. Just doing it they suggest that we do a simple inventory of all coastal infrastructure that might be at risk. Now, we might have a beginning of that somewhere, but who's going to do that? How do we pay for that? And then what do we do with it? Most of it is probably privately owned. So there are those kinds of suggestions where they acknowledge that these things cost money, which is why they're suggestions. So there isn't anything mandatory in it. I thought it was, quite frankly, not a bad read. It was very well put together, very professional. A lot of it is, their conclusions about the rate and effect of climate change. There isn't a dissenting point of view, which is not dissenting, but it clearly is a positive statement of their support for encouraging change to support climate change. So I think they're going to get, there will be comments from others, but for the planning board purposes, I don't think a comment is necessary from us as a government unit. Yes, Susan.
I think we probably should comment, even if it's a generic, thank you for including us in, and we look forward to, I really think this is it's a massive issue worldwide. And the National Trust for Historic Preservation has designated Cape Cod as one of the 10 most endangered areas in the world. The Cape Cod Commission has done, as you say, I've only read a tiny bit of it, and as you say, it's very dense, but it's well written. They've sent it to us. I think we should respond, or the selectmen or someone. I think we should acknowledge their efforts, whether we agree with them or not. And even if we just say thank you for including us in your mailing list, we look forward to additional discussions or something like that. I think not responding is a mistake. I think we should be responding. I think that's what the planning board should be doing. Cape Cod Commission is a regional commission. We're part of that region. And I think we should keep our, our toe in the water. Even if, I just think anytime you get an opportunity to comment on something like that, we should take the opportunity. We would feel badly if they didn't ask us. I would feel badly as a town if they were doing this report and they said, screw Yarmouth. They never reply to us. We're not going to send them anything. I think we should. Even if it's just a generic, thank you, you've done a great job. We look forward, blah, 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 blah. If you don't, maybe Kathy can sign it, or you have to sign it, or I don't know, but I think passing up an opportunity to respond is a mistake.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Susan. Liz, can I ask you a question about what Barnstable might be doing?
No, you may not actually. I cannot during this meeting, so.
Okay. That's why I asked.
Thank you.
That was the politest no I've ever heard. I just want.
the question is, in order for me to respond back, I need for all of you to have read it. I need for all of you to have consumed it, all 208 pages of it, like I did. And if you're ready to do that between now and Monday, it was a very short time frame. I mean, they issued it on April 26th. I don't know, we got it maybe a week later. Jack, our representative, McCormick, is our representative on the Cape Cod Commission, who has been involved in the development of this climate action plan. He was on the Climate Action Committee, if I'm not mistaken, Kathy. Yeah, he was on this subcommittee that created this plan. So I think the fingerprints of Yarmouth and the voice of Yarmouth has been involved in this process all along. But I'm uncomfortable myself in terms of representing a letter from the board when I'm not sure I'm as well informed as I should be about it. And I don't think it will make a difference one way or another about the finality of this plan, quite frankly. If you look at the document, it's practically in final form now. It was not a Word document. It's 4-color, it's glossy, it's photos, it's graphics, it's done. Again, in my opinion, it's done. But it's been done with the input and I believe, the good voice of Jack as our representative on the commission and our representative in that committee that put it together at the end of last year.
Kathy, you were part of that initial, weren't you?
I went to one meeting with a bunch of different planners, and we had a little bit of a discussion on that. I have not, and I admit, had time to read through the whole thing, and I don't want something coming from me not knowing how the rest of the town feels, how the Board of Selectmen feels, that type of thing. So the planning board, that's one thing, but I understand Joanne's concern. Unless everyone kind of has read it and feels good about commenting on it together.
Can I just, when you got the letter, what did the letter ask us to do? Was it just an FYI?
It's a required 30-day public comment period that goes to everybody.
Okay, so they weren't asking us, it was, here it is, make a comment if you want to.
They had a general press release that went a lot of different places, and then they targeted, obviously, the towns and specific people within the town. I made sure that the Board of Selectmen was fully aware of it. But like I said, I agree with Joanne. I didn't find anything in the sections that I was reading near the end that anything was mandatory.
All right, is there a group from Yarmouth that's going to comment on that report?
I would think if anybody would, it might be the Energy Committee.
Okay. And the selectman is not going to comment?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
They
think,
typically
Susan,
do not.
Susan, I'm remembering now that I share with you the important responsibility we have when someone writes to us to respond. We went through this with that Mass Dot letter with regard to Route 28, where we could have just said, yeah, they write to us all the time and they ignore us anyway. Why write? But you and I and the rest of the board felt strongly that a response was important, and we did do that. This was not a letter to us. This was a press release that went out to the world. And again,
it came to I think it came to certain targeted groups within the community. The planning board would always get any type of.
I thought there was a specific letter that said, "Dear Joanne."
No.
That's what I thought. So,
Okay.
I will withdraw my suggestion, and now that I'm fully informed, and you made a good faith effort to educate me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
30-day.
And I downloaded the PDF. It's actually quite lovely to look at. So it actually will be, I'm looking forward to the read, and I appreciate you mentioning it, Madam Chair. Sorry, Tom.
Yes, Tom.
The 30-day response period is up next week. So
That's Monday.
there's very little time to make any sort of comment. But as you say, Joanne, if you want to read the whole document and respond by next Monday.
No, I think we've reached some consensus here, Tom, I
The
hope.
consensus is that they haven't given us enough time
Yeah,
for an
So-
over 200-page document that is
So that
about
could
the
be-
future of our
More time could be
community
requested.
and planned on a regional basis and including wastewater and other types of things. I think they should give us at least a little bit more time to like chew on it and digest it and tell them how it was. And so that's, I think I've heard consensus that we don't have enough time. So
yeah. And there is a hearing on it, I believe. No, it's just a comment period.
I thought it was just a comment period.
Comment period. I think you're right, Kathy.
we can be
Um,
gracious about thanking them and making sure that we keep that line of camaraderie like open. I think that's very nice that we should do, but at the same time, I don't think we have enough time to really give them an honest opinion if that's really what they're seeking.
Yeah, and quite frankly, as I read it, again, it's meant to be very broad, the goals and strategies they lay out, and their suggestions are very broad. I would have many questions. As an example, when they casually refer to stretch code, I would say to them, what do you mean by that?
Right. I don't think that they are planning either, Kathy, like a road show going
Oh.
before selectmen or council to do types of like, and I think they pushed out a previous plan very similar to this, where they got a lot of pushback where there wasn't anything except have at it type
They
of.
just say the Cape Cod Commission is seeking broad feedback from the public on the draft climate action plan. That's all they say.
Could be broad with our response.
Then that's perfect grounds to ask for more time.
Agreed.
Well, to what end, Tom?
To give time to review it.
We could invite them if we are interested in. But I know Brad shaking his head because he doesn't like that. No, I'm sorry, Brad. You can skip that meeting, but at least invite them if
It's
they're
a public
really
comment
interested.
period.
I know.
It's just, it's eyewash. Nobody, let's move on, guys. It's done. Whoever said it was already printed and done with great graphics, it's done.
I do want to, I thank you, Brad, for that. I do want to pick up on Liz's comment, though. I think we should invite them because it is essentially done. Come and talk to us. Give us a presentation of why not? It's ask them to come and talk to us about it. It's brand new. It's a brand new amendment to the regional plan. So.
And we're offering them the opportunity to promote it.
And we just had a town election. You could even offer them the choice of who they want to present it to. But it should be presented. I agree.
Well, yes, Susan.
Can we just wait though till we're meeting together in person? Doing something like that over Zoom would be
Oh,
hideous. Let's wait till we're all going to be in the same room and really enjoy and learn from a presentation. And
All
see
right.
what they say. Liz is right. Let's see how serious they are. Invite them. Say, since we didn't have enough time, come and talk to us. And we'll set up we'll set up a meeting with the plan and anyone else that's interested and see what they say.
Okay. So we are not going to write a letter. Are we okay with that?
Unless you want to have the letter be the invitation to come and talk to us.
Okay. We could do
Give
that.
me just a greeting card saying invite to our next scheduled in-person meeting
be
after June.
One of those
15th.
hello from Yarmouth with like that little sunset on it. Yeah.
Okay, Monday is the deadline. Again, I don't know what I would say.
They're kidding. Let's just
that had
move on,
any
guys.
meaning.
We don't have
I'm-
enough time to invite a regional board to our meeting. And everybody wants to wait till we're in person. So the comment period will be over.
Yeah. So again, I'm not sure we're losing any ground by not saying anything. And I'm sure we're not gaining any ground by saying nothing.
I think offering, at least, Brad, is not that I'm trying to be cynical or anything and waste our time or the community's time. I think there's value to having an invitation in the future that we are offering them a venue to be in front of our community of talking about this. If this is something of value that they put a lot of time and energy into, then we should at least be one of those communities that we could offer a space and say, you know, we're supporting this. And here's Yarmouth Town Hall or the Senior Center, and the planning board will help host, you know, sit there and you can do it at a planning board meeting.
Yeah, well,
So
if
you
they
can-
want a large, I hate to interrupt, but if they want a larger audience, they're going to have to do it in front of the selectmen. The planning board does not get a good turnout unless it's something volatile, like building a 99 or something of that ilk. They would reach hardly anybody coming to a planning board meeting.
No, I'm
But
not
if,
trying to elongate
We
this
would-
conversation. I just think, though, there is value to at least commenting that we didn't have enough, we don't feel like we had enough time, but we see value in the product that they're producing. And that in the future, we're looking forward to future discussions or something, and that we would be open to hosting something.
Okay, so let's go back to, I'll be more than glad if that's the sense of the board to send a nice letter back to them, thanking them for their efforts. And perhaps we could host them, not necessarily be a planning board meeting, but the planning board could host them in a presentation to our community by one of their senior staff. Doesn't have to be the commission or the executive director, but a member of their staff to come and talk more about this very important, timely subject.
I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Joanne,
Yes, Tom.
with a new plan being put forth by the commission and the scope of this, we also have a task ahead of us. That's the local comprehensive plan, and this item would necessarily dovetail with that effort, down, if not immediately, then somewhere down the road. So yeah, there is the possibility that will have influence on what we come up with the LCP ahead of us. I have some other comments about LCP later, but I thought it was important to say it now.
Yeah, that's fine. And in fact, we might even mention that right out of the box on our visioning survey, the environment. We have several questions that focus on this. We're trying to, get our best sense of the importance of this to our town members. Kathy and I can work something out that I think we'll be able to send forward. So Kathy, I'll be talking to you tomorrow on this. Okay, so we'll do something. Hopefully it'll be satisfactory for everybody. If we can get you, we'll get you something as soon as we can. Okay. Great Island Plaza. There has been some activity with regard to that project, which we did look at because they had to come back to us for an amendment, if I recall, Kathy. Was it an amendment?
There was a zoning
Yeah.
change that
Zoning
was
change.
done.
But nothing has happened there, and the owner is property owner is still in Israel, unable to come here, unable to get any kind of capital stacking to do it, and the broker that she's using is going to submit, we think, a grant request to the state related to blight. As far as we know, we don't know enough about this particular request to support. The bottom line is the broker for the property owner is asking us to write a letter of support. He's also going before the CEDC next week for a letter of support. He's rounding up some other elected officials for support of the grant request. We don't know enough about what the grant request is, but we've invited him to come to our June 2nd meeting to talk to us about it. And if the board feels so compelled, we will we'll issue a letter in response to this. Yes, Susan.
Joanne, what was the zoning request that they wanted, zoning amendment or something? You said they wanted to do something?
It was approved several years ago, Susan.
I know,
There was a mixed zoned
Right.
lots, and it's now all B2.
Say that again?
It was a mixed zone. It was R25 and B2. Now the whole lot of the 3 parcels that she owns are all B2.
B2?
Yep.
Was
So
that,
she
Kathy, was
has
that-
all of her special permits and everything. She went through the zoning board of appeals. But when she tried to get the financing, that's when she ran into a snag because she really couldn't get people to write letters of intent or interest of renting because we're hot, heavy in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to commit to anything. So understandably,
Kathy, was that the change that was voted on at the town meeting 2 years ago?
2 years ago sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so all her permits though are based on, because I sat through at least 2 of her presentations in front of zoning.
Mhm.
And I forget whether they were both under the B, whatever it is, the B2.
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 Yeah.
I forget, but I know it's been a tortured road that the town has been on with Great Island. And I kind of, it's a grant for lighting? Is that what you're saying? Lights?
A blight, B,
Right.
Lights?
blight, yeah.
This is like, someone
there's a
killing
new-
their parents and then asking for forgiveness because they're an orphan. They let it be blighted.
Yeah.
It's for a grant, a state grant for underutilized properties. I mean, there's a lot of different programs out there from the state, from vacant storefronts to blight and that type of thing. And they're looking to capitalize in it to basically do some the remodeling that's needed to the basically the western half of the building, which is the first 1 through 6 units. The eastern section next to the post office is in such poor condition that it needed to be raised and replaced, and that particular grant does not cover new construction. It only covers remodeling of existing. So it's an interesting thing. I think we just don't know enough about it. Joanne dug into it a little bit, which I very much appreciate. But we've asked for some additional information from the realtor for them to come before the planning board with a little bit more specific of what they're looking for. And hopefully they'll have more information at the CEDC meeting, which would be, I believe, the 27th, Joanne.
Yes, that's correct.
So we'll kind of have an idea how more information then, and we'll present it at June
And he's coming to, you're saying he's coming to planning on June 7th?
June
2nd.
2nd.
2nd, okay.
The application's due on the 4th, so that would be our opportunity to provide a letter.
Do we have any concerns about getting the state of Massachusetts involved in our development at the corner of South Sea and Route 28 as a planning board?
What do you think
Well-
they're gonna do, Susan?
Yeah.
I'm very hesitant about having the state of Massachusetts involved in development in Yarmouth that we as a town don't ask for, but a private developer is asking for. It's a sea change in the approach that the town has endorsed. We may end up endorsing it, but it's a sea change in what has been talked about for 10 years on that site.
That a private developer would, a private property owner would seek grant funding that's available through the Commonwealth to improve their property is this.
But the property, remember, Joanne, the development is going on there under permit and zoning that's granted by this town under, and it was granted under several presentations that was made that this is going to be private sector development. So now you're switching the role of the developer, quite frankly, to the state of Massachusetts. Or at least
I see.
I don't think the developer would be the state of Massachusetts, Susan. I think they would get a grant and they'd be required to meet certain requirements for the grant.
If the state of Massachusetts is giving money to anyone, I will guarantee you they're going to feel they play a role in some fashion. And that's my concern. So let's wait and see what he has to say.
Yeah, we're not sure exactly under what grant program he's applying, so there we
He
have
did
some,
confirm the
we have a lot of
underutilized.
questions, but we certainly want to play a role in whatever happens on that corner,
Absolutely.
because I'm sure there are some things that we don't want to see on that corner. So, so let's, we'll talk with him on June 2nd.
Second, good.
Okay, I think that was it for our formal agenda tonight.
Minutes, minutes.
So let's move on to meeting minutes. May I have
I
a
would
motion
love to make a
accept-
motion to approve the minutes, Madam Chair. I'm changing things up tonight.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Tom Barron,
Aye.
Susan Britta,
aye.
Brad Goodwin,
Approve.
Will Rubenstein,
Aye.
Joanne Crowley, aye. Liz Hartsgrove?
Aye.
Okay. Kathy, zoning board of appeal decisions, anything?
I have not gotten any
Yeah.
decisions from Sandy, and I asked for decisions, and I still haven't gotten them.
Bit behind, I guess, a little bit. Okay.
Well, I just, I
Are
don't
there-
know why, I honestly don't know why I'm not getting them. I
Yeah.
can check again.
All right. Tom, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, we had zoning board last week. There were 4 items. Two of the items involved signs, and the sign language in our bylaws was well, to turn a phrase, was seriously questioned by the 2 attorneys that are on the board. Reading the section 102.2 and the provisions for variance that are in the bylaws, I think I would take considerable exception to the way things were done. The signs requested were fairly simple. There should have been a slam dunk vote, but instead they were very long, protracted discussions about it. After the meeting, I wrote to one of the attorneys asking for clarification of how what his position was on denying these 2 items, and I don't think that I haven't received an answer yet. So I just want you to be aware that was
Okay, thank you.
yeah. They were simple. They should have been simple, slam dunk decisions, and it didn't make sense what transpired.
Okay.
In fact, one case, because there was objection to the way that the petitioner was denied, they won't be able to come back for 2 years to try to get any relief on that particular item. But anyway, just wanted you to be aware.
Thank you. Yes, Kathy, did you have something? Oh, no. Yes, I saw your hand. up.
Sorry.
Yes, Susan?
Kathy, anything on the drive-in site RFP?
Yes, a letter, a solicitation of interest went out.
Right.
And it was published in the paper, sent around to a bunch of different people, as well as anyone who's ever shown any interest in the drive-in site. Proposals are due on the 27th. The proposals are somewhat limited to the number of days that events would be allowed in deference to some of the neighbors. So there's a bunch of different parameters that have been included in that, basically ensuring that we're in compliance with our Article 97 requirements. I believe the Board of Selectmen are going to look at these proposals on June 8th at their Board of Selectmen meeting, and then decide who they would like to basically give invitations to formally have their public hearings for their entertainment license. So
Good.
hopefully, there's been a few people who've expressed interest so far. So hopefully we'll have a bunch of events that might be happening at the drive-in site.
Madam Chair, can I just express my disappointment? Because this should have happened 6 months ago. And this is nonsense. This is just total nonsense. And respectfully, I don't live next to the drive-in site, but I can say as a citizen of the town of Yarmouth, I went to 3 concerts last summer, and there were friends of mine that came from parts unknown, way off Cape, that were tickled that they could have spent money and did spend money in our town and our restaurants and our hotels, etc. And the fact that they are planning anything on Cape Cod and haven't had a formal hearing to even do the plans, to make the plans on May 19th, it is shameful. Thank you.
Comments
Asinine would be
noted.
another word.
Comments are noted.
And by the way, that's not directed at any one person, Madam Chair. This is just like,
Well,
It's directed at
we're
the
not
Board
gonna-
of Selectmen.
We're not going to have any ad hominem comments anymore.
oh, right,
anyway.
that's what I wanted to be clear. I wasn't attacking.
I understand
anybody.
that.
Okay.
I understand
I
that.
just wanted to make- Thank you.
I'm sorry, Kathy, is that all on the drive-in site? The one thing I noticed about it is that it won't be to one vendor. It will be multiple vendors, which I thought was interesting. I did see the RFP. Hopefully we'll get something going quickly. Yes, Susan.
I was gonna say, and that will give Kathy and the towns an opportunity to compare what happened with one vendor versus this, where we're gonna have a variety of vendors and see what works best for the town.
I just want to be in the time machine, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
you know, to 60 to 90 days ago, because I think multiple vendors would have benefited from a longer runway.
I totally, Rick,
Your point is taken, Will. Thank you.
yep, everyone agrees, Will. Everyone
Sorry, you're right. Everybody agrees. Sorry.
Next, any other board member items? Yes, Will.
Sorry, Library Planning Committee had a meeting. And I think given the change in town leadership, which I think if those results have been made official, I couldn't tell because our fine daily newspaper doesn't seem to be able to report on the results of a local election on the following day. So you have to be, I don't know, an investigator to find out these things. Sorry, Madam Chair. The Library Planning Committee is planning to do some outreach to the select board, you know, to educate the newer members about just sort of where that process is headed. And, you know, as I mentioned to them after our last meeting, that, you know, these processes can work together and be beneficial to each other. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other board member items? Tom?
I've got two committees. RAC suspended any meeting this month before the town meeting coming up on Saturday. The Land Disposition Committee is going to meet again next month. As I reported the last time, they will reconsider some of that large parcel, that 10-acre parcel on Old Townhouse Road. There is going to be continued discussion of that, but other than that, there's nothing further.
Excuse me, Tom, do you mean the one that's by past the Comcast? That part of Old Townhouse, or do you mean closer to somewhere else?
No, the one that's near Flax Pond.
Ah, thank you.
Yes, Susan?
just Tom, so to clarify, the water resources vote is not coming up Saturday. Is that correct?
No,
It was on the warrant. And
the
is
water
that-
resources items were on yesterday's ballot.
Oh, okay. But there's nothing coming up on Saturday.
Kathy?
Kathy
It will,
probably has.
yeah, the ballot votes were for the things that were approved at
Right.
the fall town meeting
Correct.
last year. The DHY is on the agenda, but my understanding is that they are on the warrant, but they were going to ask from the floor that it be indefinitely
Postponed.
postponed because Dennis and Harwich. But I think that they sounded like they wanted to have some type of conversation or ability to have some conversation with the community on that. So it'll be interesting to see how far they're willing to take that, or whether they go right to indefinitely postpone it.
Okay, but Jeff is going to ask that be postponed. Is that correct? That vote on Saturday would be postponed.
I believe someone from the Board of Selectmen will probably.
Someone will do it. Okay, good. Okay, so we got what we needed in terms of the financing. It's just the community hugging, kissing with Yarmouth okay, good. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from board members? Okay, next meeting is June 2nd. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Well,
So-
next meeting legally is Saturday. Right?
Right.
Do we have to
I-
post a meeting?
Why you guys aren't?
Only if we
Don't
were
have any-
talking about something.
If
We don't have any zoning articles. I wasn't
Oh, I
planning
thought,
on it.
okay.
No.
I always took the nth
No.
degree of 4 planning board members met at a supermarket and we're all there at once. Okay,
Not if you're talking about the fruit and produce.
all right.
And
Ever
what if
since we
gotta
got
put
sued,
the
I am
never
sorry.
happened.
Ever since we got sued, I'm totally out there. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Well, before we adjourn.
A
can I-
discussion?
No, can I recommend that you vote for my initiative petition?
No, you can't.
Why not?
Not on the agenda, Tom. It's not on the agenda.
It was a board member item.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do a roll call here. Tom Barron,
Aye.
Susan Britta,
Aye.
Will Rubenstein,
aye.
Liz Hartsgrove,
Aye.
Brad Goodwin.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Joe.
Kathy.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Madam Chair.
See you Saturday.
Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, see you Saturday.
Dress well.